What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Marincess deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Braxton. And this deck is currently one of my favorite decks to play competitively because of just how powerful this deck is and the crazy inboards that you can make with this build. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Braxton some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Marincess Blue Tang. Blue Tang is one of the best cards in the entire deck, and definitely the best normal summon in the entire build, because this card has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Marincess monster from your deck to the grave, which is an amazing effect to be able to use to send your copy of Seahorse from your deck to the grave, so you can use your copy of Blue Slug to get it back and go full combo. This card also has a great ability, almost like a copy of Pot of Duality, that if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard as a material for a link summon of a water monster, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, add 1 excavated Marincess card to your hand. Also, shuffle the rest back in the deck, which is a great ability to be able to get an extender off the top of your deck, or even a copy of Wave from your deck so you can get another hand trap. We then play 3 copies of Marincess Seahorse. Marincess Seahorse is a definite 3-of extender in the deck because you can special summon this card from your hand to a zone a Marincess Link monster points to, which is a really good effect to be able to use just to extend your plays. This card also has the ability during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can manage this card from the graveyard to special summon 1 water monster from your hand to a zone a Marincess Link monster points to, which is a great ability just to extend your plays even further. We then play 3 copies of Spring Girl. Spring Girl isn't a really good 3-of in the build as well because this card is the ability to manage a Marincess monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand just to give you another monster to put on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Pascalis. Pascalis is really good as a 3-of in the deck, and I really like this card overall as a normal summon, but you always want to see that copy of Blue Tang as the best normal summon in the deck, but this card is probably the second best normal summon in the build, because if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon a Marincess monster from your hand in defense position, except another copy of Pascalis, which is a great ability just to get 2 monsters on your side of the field. So you can basically go full combo in the deck to be able to summon out your copy of Aqua Argonaut or out another monster to your side of the field, which is really good. This card is super good in the build because it also has the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can manage this card from the grave and then target a Marincess spell a trap in the grave and add it back to your hand, which is a great ability to be able to use this card to recover cards like Wave or even Battle Ocean if Battle Ocean does go to the graveyard off of your opponent's card effect. We then play 2 copies of Mandarin. I really like 2 copies of Mandarin in the build because this card is just a great extender that's super easy to put on the field, that if you control 2 or more Marincess monsters while this card is in your hand or graveyard, then you can target a Water Link monster that you control and special summon this card to a zone that monster points to, but banish it when it leaves the field. This card is insane in the build as a 2-of to be able to just extend your plays and get this card on the field constantly to be able to just go in for a lot of Link summons. We then play a single copy of Sleepy Maiden. I really like this card in the deck, but it is a little bit of a brick if you do see it in your hand, but it's a great 1-of in the build because it lets you target a Marincess card that you control and special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, it gains this effect, that while this card is in the monster zone, the targeted card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect, which is a pretty good ability about this card, but I really feel like just a single copy is all you need in the deck. It also has the ability to manage this card from your graveyard and target a Marincess Link monster that you control and equip it with 1 Marincess Link monster from your graveyard, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card, especially with cards like Battle Ocean in this deck. We then play a single copy of Silent Sea Nettle. Sea Nettle is a really good extender in this deck, but I have bumped this card down to just a single copy, and if you control a water monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is a great ability, especially since this card is a level 4 to help you go in for cards like Bahamut Shark and then go into copies of Toad. We then play 3 copies of Gameciel. Gameciel is a great 3-of in the deck because it guarantees that you're always going to have an out to whatever monster your opponent puts on the field, especially with cards like Argonaut. This card comes in extremely handy to combo with your copy of Argonaut, and it's just a really good card overall because it just deals with basically anything your opponent puts on the board. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a fantastic hand trap just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then also play 3 copies of Nibiru. Nibiru is really good at using, basically just breaking your opponent's board. I really like this card in the deck as a 3-up, just to basically break your opponent's board, that once they summon that 5th time, you're just going to throw the Nibiru and just basically just stop them and break the board, which is just amazing. This card is really good, and it just is an overall fantastic hand trap this format. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is really good as a 1-of in the deck because you can bring back any monster you want from the graveyard, and this card just helps you extend your plays. We then play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is really good in this format, especially dealing with your opponent's back row is just really insane, and this card just helps you out a lot this format. We then play a single copy of Thrust. Thrust is great in this deck, and it's really good to be able to use their copies of Monster Reborn, Harpy's Feather Duster, or a lot of other cards in this build. This card is really good this format, and it's just a really fantastic card that if you do get hand trapped, you can get to a lot of really powerful cards in this build, especially some of the spicy tech cards I'm playing in this deck. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is great in this deck just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play a single copy of Battle Ocean. Battle Ocean is insane and is such a powerful field spell, but you can get to with your copy of Sea Angel, which is why we're just playing it as a 1-of. But this card is basically the entire deck. You always want to be able to see this card, but it's super easy to search, which is why we just play a single copy now. And it's a really good card because all Marincess monsters you control gain 200 attack. Also, each one gains 600 attack for each Marincess card equipped to it, which is a really cool ability to be able to use with this card, especially with your copy of Argonaut when you make that card, because monsters you control in the extra monster zone that were link summoned using Marincess Crystal Heart as a material are unaffected by your opponent's card effects, which is super easy to do in this build. And when you link summon a Marincess monster to your extra monster zone, except during the damage step, you can equip up to 3 Marincess link monsters with different names from your graveyard to that link summoned monster, which is a really cool ability because once you summon out your copy of Argonaut to your extra monster zone, you're probably going to at least go through a copy of Blue Slug, Sea Angel, and Coral Anemone that you can equip to your copy of Argonaut, which is going to give you those 3 materials, so it gets boosted up by a grand total of about 2,000 attack points, which is insane. I love that about this card, that gives it such a boost, and it's a super good card in this build. We then play 2 copies of Marincess Dive. Dive is really good in this deck, but you only really need 2 copies of this card. It has the ability to either target a non-link Marincess monster in the graveyard and special summon it, giving us more copies of Monster Reborn, or if a copy of Battle Ocean is on the field, you get to special summon a Marincess monster from the deck, which is an amazing ability to instantly get the exact Marincess card that you need. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents. This card is really good as a 2-of in the deck, and if you want a more budget option for Thrust, you could probably play a 3rd copy of this card in the build to be able to just have a little bit more budget-friendly deck. If you want to play a 3rd copy of this over the Thrust, you can definitely do that if you want to, but this card is insane, letting you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and shuffle a card from it back in the deck. It's just really good, especially dealing with hand traps in your opponent's hand with this card. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Marincess Wave. Marincess Wave at 2 in this build is just really good because it's not a really bad card to see in your opening hand, because this card is actually a hand trap, which is really cool. As if you control a Marincess Link monster, you can target a face-up monster that your opponent controls and negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of this turn. Then if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters that you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end phase of the turn. But if you control a Link link 3 or higher Marincess monster, you can activate this effect from your hand, which is a great ability to be able to activate this card directly from your hand if you do control a link 3 or higher, which is just really, really good. We then play 2 copies of Evenly Matched. I do main 2 copies of Evenly Matched in this deck, which I really feel like is an amazing thing. From playtesting this card, it's crazy to be able to main deck 2 copies of this card and a copy of Thrust, because you always get to it when you need to, because if your opponent does hand trap you at any point during your combo, you still have access to be able to get to that copy of Evenly Matched if you need to. If you're going first, you can get to like something like a copy of Imperm, which we play 3 of in the build, but if you're going second and you're trying to establish a board and you do have that copy of Thrust or you have the Evenly Matched, you can easily crack your opponent's board if they decide to hand trap you with a copy of Thrust in the hand. If you already have the copy of Evenly Matched, your opponent tries to establish a board, you can use the copy of Evenly to break that board, which is just really insane. We also play the 3 copies of Imperm to go along with our other hand traps, and Imperm is amazing in this deck to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps, and it's really good. If you guys have not playtested at least 2 copies of Evenly in the main, you definitely should, because this card is really, really good right now in the main deck. And if you do go first, you can just side it out. If you go into like game 2 and 3, you can just side it out, which is totally fine. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with our main boss monster, Aqua Argonaut. This card is crazy powerful. This card is a walking spell trap negate, and it just comes out absolutely massive when you use it with Battle Ocean. Because this card has the ability, when this card is in the extra monster zone, your opponent's monsters cannot attack any other monsters except this one. And you can only use the following effects this card once per turn, that you can target a water monster you control and 1 card that your opponent controls and return them back to the hand. Which is crazy to be able to use your copy of Gamma Seal, that you can basically give your opponent a copy of Gamma Seal, then bounce one of your water monsters back to your hand and bounce the Gamma Seal back to hand, and then you can use Gamma Seal again to be able to give it over another monster, which is just super cool. I love that about this card, and it's just a super cool interaction with your copy of Gamma Seal in this card. It also has the ability during your opponent's turn, when a spell or trap card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can special summon 1 of your Marincess monsters equipped to this card, and if you do, negate the activated effect, which is a great ability just to stop your opponent's spells and traps during their turn, while also moving something up, like a copy of Coral Anemone from the back row back into the monster zone, so you can use its abilities. We then play a single copy of Bubble Reef. Bubble Reef is just a good one-of in the deck. I do summon it every so often in this build, but I usually just go for the copy of Aqua Argonaut, but this card is great to help you draw cards. We then play a single copy of Marbled Rock. Marbled Rock is just a good option in the deck, which is why we play this card as a one-of at the build. We then play a single copy of Coral Triangle. Coral Triangle is basically like Soul Charge, but also searches out your copy of Wave, which is amazing, making this card a definite one-of in the build. This card is amazing, and sometimes you'll just end on this card with Battle Ocean on your side of the field and a copy of Wave in hand, which is still insane. This card is really good, and if your opponent does decide to deal with this card, it helps you just basically recover by banishing this card from the graveyard, which is really insane. We then play 2 copies of Coral Anemone. Coral Anemone is insane in this build as a 2-of, but you really only need 2 copies of this card. Unless you target a water monster with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard and special summon it to the zone this card points to, which is a really cool ability. It also locks you into water monsters for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal and actually helps us out a lot with our copy of Zelantis, which is amazing. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a Marincess monster in the graveyard and add it back to your hand, except a copy of this card, which is an insane ability. We then play a single copy of Crystal Heart. We just play the single copy of Crystal Heart because we use it with our copy of Battle Ocean, so our card is basically immortal, which is insane to be able to do. We then play 2 copies of Blue Slug. Blue Slug is really good in this deck as a 2-of. This card is a card you're always going to make first because it has the ability that if this card is Link Summon, you can target a Marincess monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is a really cool ability to normal summon out your copy of Blue Tang, send Seahorse to graveyard, and then link your copy of your Blue Slug away, or your Blue Tang away for your copy of Blue Slug, then use this card's ability to be able to recover the Seahorse, and then special summon Seahorse, so you can summon out 1 of your 2 copies of Sea Angel. Sea Angel is really good in the deck as a 2-of, because if this card is Link Summon, you get to add a Marincess spell from your deck to your hand, meaning you can add your copy of Dive or your copy of Battle Ocean from your deck to your hand off this card's ability, which is why we just play the 1-of copy of Battle Ocean, is because we can search it off of Sea Angel anyways, so you only need a single copy. We then play a single copy of World Sea Dragon Zelantis. Zelantis is insane in this deck. This card is so good because it banishes every monster off the field and then puts them back on the field, basically back on the field where they were, which is just really cool to be able to do. But a cool interaction with this card is if you use your copy of Coral Anemone's ability to be able to waterlock yourself and bring back a water monster from the graveyard, and then later in the turn you make your copy of Zelantis, and your opponent's not playing water and they only have, say, just dark monsters on the field, none other monsters come back because we're the ones summoning them back off of Zelantis' ability, and we are locked into water because of Coral Anemone, making it so that they don't get any of their monsters back, but we get all of ours back because all we're playing is water anyways. So Zelantis is insane in this deck and basically a win button for the deck that if you do summon this card out to your side of the field, you probably are going to win the game. We then play a single copy of Splash Mage. Splash Mage also goes really well with their copy of Coral Anemone because this card does have less than 1500 attack, which is really cool, and lets you target a Cyverse monster in your graveyard and special summon the defense position, which is a really cool ability for this card to have, to be able to bring back a monster from the graveyard back to your side of the field, because we play a lot of Cyverse monsters in the deck. We then play a single copy of Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark is great to be able to make in this build because then it helps you make your copy of Toad, which Toad is just a really good walking negate in the deck, and it's very easy to put this card back into the extract when it does touch the graveyard, so you can use Bahamut Shark on the follow-up to bring it back out to your side of the field, which is just really good. Or you can use your copy of Toad as a walking negate and then use it as a recovery card to bring back cards like Blue Tang back to your hand so that you can recover your plays and go in for more plays on the follow-up turn, which is just really, really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Marincess before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's one of my favorite decks to play. I absolutely love playing Marincess. It's probably one of my favorite Link decks ever created because it's just so fun making your copies of Aqua Argana, and I absolutely love the artwork of this deck. And I'm really glad Braxton actually suggested this deck because I just love playing this build. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.